You are looking at something red right now. Maybe it is a notification dot on your phone. Maybe it is a logo or a word or the background behind some text. Maybe you glanced at something across the room, a mug, a piece of clothing, a book spine. Whatever it was, you saw red. Not approximately red, not a personal interpretation of red, just red, plainly and obviously and unambiguously, the way red has always been red for as long as you have had eyes. You did not choose to see it that way. You did not interpret anything. The redness was just there, an objective property of the object, sitting in the world waiting to be seen. That is what color is. Except it is not. And the reason it is not is going to require you to dismantle something so fundamental, so woven into every moment of your waking life, that most people who encounter this idea simply refuse to follow it all the way to the end. Because at the end, where the physics runs out and the question becomes something else entirely, you will find that one of the most basic, most constant, most intimate features of your experience, the color of the world, exists nowhere in the physical universe except inside your skull. And the universe you thought you were seeing has no color in it at all. Where does red go when you close your eyes? That is the wrong question. The right question is where red was before you opened them. The answer is going to undo something. Now let's be generous to common sense, because it is not unreasonable. Color seems like an obvious physical property. You shine white light through a prism and it splits into a rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. Newton did this experiment in 1666 and concluded that white light is a mixture of colors. The colors are in the light. The light is real. The wavelengths are measurable. You can build a spectrometer and assign a precise number in nanometers to every color. Red is roughly 620 to 750 nanometers. Blue is 450 to 495. These are not opinions, these are measurements. The physics is right there, objective and precise. You might say color is wavelength. Wavelength is a physical property of electromagnetic radiation. Therefore, color is a physical property of light. And that is a clean, logical, scientific-sounding argument. Let's check it. Let's be honest about what wavelength actually is and what color actually is, and whether those two things are the same. If you want to understand how the universe actually works, not just how it looks, but how it works, hit that subscribe button. We are going to take things apart and see what makes them tick. Let's find things out together. Here is the first thing to establish clearly. Wavelength is real. Electromagnetic radiation exists on a continuous spectrum, from radio waves hundreds of meters long down to gamma rays smaller than an atomic nucleus. The portion of that spectrum that your eyes respond to, the so-called visible spectrum, spans wavelengths from about 380 to 700 nanometers. That range is a physical fact about photons. It does not depend on any observer. A photon of 700 nanometer wavelength exists whether or not any eye ever receives it. But here's the thing. That photon has no color, not red, not any color. It has a wavelength, which is a number. A number is not a color. A color is an experience. Here is the analogy that makes this precise. Imagine you have a piano key, middle C. When you press it, the hammer strikes a string, and the string vibrates at 261.6 times per second. That frequency is a physical fact. It does not depend on any listener. But the sound of middle C, that particular quality of tone, that specific musical feeling, exists only when a nervous system converts that vibration into an auditory experience. The frequency is in the world. The sound, as you experience it, is in your head. Color is exactly the same. The wavelength is in the world. The redness is in your head. Do you see what happens? Now let me show you how we know this is not philosophy, but physics. Your eye contains three types of cone cells, photoreceptors that respond to light. Each type is sensitive to a broad range of wavelengths, with peak sensitivity roughly in the short, medium, and long wavelength ranges. When light enters your eye, these three cone types fire in different proportions depending on the wavelengths present, and your brain receives three signals, three numbers, and from those three numbers it constructs a color experience. Three numbers. That is the entire physical input. Everything you see, the full, extraordinary, rich palette of the visible world, is your brain's interpretation of three numbers arriving from your retina. And the interpretation is not a readout, it is a construction. Here is where it gets genuinely strange. You can construct the same color experience from completely different physical inputs. Mix red light and green light and you see yellow. Even though there are no yellow wavelength photons present at all, your brain receives the same three-number signal it would receive from yellow wavelength photons because red and green together stimulate the medium and long cones in the same ratio as yellow does, and so it produces the same experience. The yellow you see is identical to the yellow produced by a single yellow wavelength, but one of them contains no yellow light whatsoever. The color is not in the photons, the color is in the ratio, and the ratio is not being read, it is being interpreted. Now I want to take this deeper, because if color is a construction, then the obvious question is everyone constructing the same thing? And here is where the ground becomes very unsteady. Consider this. You and I have both been calling the same wavelength red our entire lives. We learn the word together. We apply it to the same objects. We agree completely on which things are red and which are not. Our behavior is identical. But here is what is impossible to ever verify. Whether the experience of red that you have, the actual qualitative feel of it, the specific interior quality of what it is like to see red, is in any way the same as mine. I cannot access your experience. You cannot access mine. We can only compare behaviors and verbal reports. And the behaviors and verbal reports would be identical whether our experiences matched perfectly or were completely different. Even if what you experience when you see red is what I would call green, and you have simply learned to call that experience red because that is what everyone around you called it. This is the part that keeps me up at night, because this is not a quirky thought experiment. It is a genuine problem in the philosophy of mind that has a name, the inverted qualia problem, and it has never been solved, and it cannot be solved with any instrument currently available to science, because every instrument measures behavior and physics, and the question is about experience, and experience is not directly measurable. But let's stay with the physics for one more step because it gets worse before it gets beautiful. Your color experience does not just vary potentially between people. It varies within your own visual system, right now, in ways you have never noticed. The center of your retina, the fovea, is densely packed with cones and gives you high-resolution color vision. The periphery has far fewer cones and far more rods, which are colorblind. You are effectively colorblind in your peripheral vision, and you have never noticed because your brain fills in the color using context and memory and prediction. The color you see at the edge of your visual field is partly fabricated. Your brain is coloring in your world like a child filling in a coloring book and presenting the result to you as unmediated reality. And then there is simultaneous color contrast. Place a gray square on a red background and it looks greenish. Place the same gray square on a green background and it looks reddish. The square has not changed. The photons arriving from the square have not changed. The three-number signal from your cones has not changed. But the color you experience has changed, because color is not computed from the photons in isolation. It is computed relationally, in the context of surrounding colors, as part of the brain's attempt to figure out what the illumination conditions are and what the objects actually are. Color is not a readout of wavelength. It is the brain's solution to an inference problem. A problem that sounds like this. Given that the photons arriving at my retina are a mixture of the object's reflectance properties and the illumination color, what color is the object actually? The brain solves this problem brilliantly, usually correctly, and delivers the answer to consciousness as color experience. You are not seeing the world, you are seeing the brain's best guess about the world, rendered in a medium, color, that does not exist in the world at all. Bring this to something immediate. Right now, the room you are in is being filled with electromagnetic radiation bouncing off every surface. None of it has color. It has wavelength, intensity, polarization, physical properties that exist whether or not any eye is present. The moment you open your eyes, your visual system begins converting that colorless radiation into an experience of color. And the conversion is so fast and so seamless and has been happening since the first day you opened your eyes that it feels like direct perception of an objective property. It is not. It is a rendering. The world you see is a rendered image produced by your brain for your brain from data that contains no color whatsoever. The red thing across the room is, in the physical universe, an object that reflects a higher proportion of long wavelength electromagnetic radiation than short wavelength radiation. That is the complete physical description. Everything else, the redness, the warmth of it, the way red feels different from blue in some way that goes beyond mere labeling, all of that is yours. It lives in you. But here is what strikes me as extraordinary about this and why I cannot land on despair when I follow it all the way through. The fact that color is a construction does not make it less real. It makes it more intimate. Every color you have ever seen has been, in a very precise sense, a gift from your own nervous system. The blue of the sky on a clear morning, the green of new leaves, the particular gold of late afternoon light, none of it exists out there in the electromagnetic spectrum. All of it exists in you. You did not passively receive a colored world. You made one. Your brain, working from 3 numbers and 4.5 billion years of evolutionary refinement, built an experience of color so rich and so specific and so consistently useful that it has guided every living thing with eyes through a world that without that construction would be colorless and dark. You are not a receiver. You are a painter, and the canvas is the only one of its kind. The universe has no color in it, only minds do. If this twisted your brain a little bit, good. That means it's working. I'll see you in the next one.